Futures pointing higher this morning ahead of the Fed meeting. What does that mean for the markets? We're going to go through the major markets and more on today's 3 minutes on Markets and Money. This morning, futures are pointing up on the markets, of course. The markets have been down sharply since the beginning of the year. The S&P down over 8%, the NASDAQ down more than 13%, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies down way more than that. Are the markets ready for a bounce here? Is a bottom being put in? There is some argument to be made for that. Let's look at these major indexes and see if we can determine kind of what happens next. Starting with the S&P. If we take a look at the S&P 500, there's a couple of important things that are going on, and we've talked about this for the last few days. Markets are getting very oversold here and sitting on support here from the October lows. Again, very oversold conditions on both fronts here, suggesting that markets are going to get a bounce. More than 3 standard deviations oversold from the 50-day moving average. This is a very, very deep oversold condition, something we haven't seen really since March of 2020. With the market this oversold here, we're looking for a bounce that could rally all the way back to the 50 and the 20-day moving average, which this has now got a moving average crossover here, suggesting a bit more resistance at that level. But again, a rally back to about 4,600 on the S&P would certainly not be surprising. Let's look at the NASDAQ. As we saw with the S&P, NASDAQ's in a very similar situation. NASDAQ down over 13% year to date so far. So a very big decline here. More than 3 standard deviations oversold, just like the S&P. Extremely oversold on our money flow indicators and our just overbought, oversold indications as well. So expecting a rally here back in the NASDAQ, again, would not be a surprise. Again, trying to hold this support line that we had back from these October lows, and a rally back to the 50, 20-day moving averages, certainly well within the context, very much like the S&P. Now, in order for that to happen, we're going to need to see the big cap stocks in the NASDAQ really rally. So we're talking about Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon. Those have been under a lot of pressures of late. So again, after Microsoft's very strong earnings yesterday, that might just lead the NASDAQ rally today, because again, if people start getting more confidence that Apple and Amazon, those companies can continue to generate earnings in this environment, that's going to help bring those leaders back into the fold. And of course, that will lift the overall index because there's such a big major weight in that index itself. If we switch over to cryptocurrencies, which has really become an indicator for sentiment in the markets, Bitcoin has had a very big decline this year. Again, just like the markets, more than 3 standard deviations oversold. Now, unlike the markets, Bitcoin has already started to form a base and turn back positive here, is about to run into resistance here very quickly at the declining 20-day moving average. But we are triggering a money flow buy signal here and coming off a very oversold condition. So if Bitcoin can continue to rally today, get above that 20-day moving average, you've got a clear shot at about 45,000 on Bitcoin. So again, if Bitcoin begins to rally, that will likely lead to a risk-on type appetite for the overall market, and we'll see markets kind of lift here. Now, importantly, we do have the Fed meeting this afternoon. That could change the whole dynamic and tone of the markets. But markets are oversold enough that if the Fed becomes a bit more dovish today, at least suggesting they're just going to kind of maintain their current pace, not accelerate it, that's likely going to play favorably for stocks and for cryptocurrency. We could see a bit more of a rally here over the next few days. But tomorrow morning, we'll certainly cover this more in detail, both on the radio show and right here on 3 Minutes on Markets and Money, which you'll get at the website, realinvestmentadvice.com.